When you face utter devastation, how far will you go to bring back the light? What unholy price is truly too high to save the one you love most? In a chilling corner of Indonesia, a nightmare ritual of black magic is secretly performed, a rite so dark that it literally marries a woman to the devil, Iblis himself. This isn't just a grim fairy tale, this is the true core of our story. Once the pact is made, the devil takes complete possession of the woman, and then any family member who stands in Iblis's path, be it her husband, her mother, or even the child she tried to save, is systematically destroyed. This horrifying narrative centers on Ranti, an ordinary woman living in an Indonesian village. Through a series of desperate events, Ranti unknowingly commits the grave sin of engaging in this terrifying black magic. The story, titled Bengantin Iblis, which translates to Iblis's wife, is actually inspired by a real-life special ritual. We are immediately plunged into the grotesque ceremony. Ranti was the intended vessel, being consecrated as the wife of Iblis. A black rooster was held taut, then swiftly decapitated with a sharp knife. Following this gruesome act, the rooster's liver was violently removed and fed directly to Ranti. In another bowl, a special flower had been soaking in blood, and Ranti was then completely bathed in this concoction. Once cleaned and prepared, she was dressed exquisitely and taken into a special room. The atmosphere thickened, the candles around the room flickered and died, the veil covering Ranti's head slowly drifted away, and the scene ended with the terrifying vision of two monstrous, devilish hands reaching out to touch Ranti. But to truly understand this horror, we have to go back. The scene abruptly cut to several days earlier, showing us exactly why Ranti had been driven to such extremes. We saw Ranti at the break of dawn, driving a pickup truck toward the market. Ranti was an exceptionally hard-working woman. Her family ran a chicken business. She operated this business alongside her younger sister-in-law, Siti, and her husband, Bowo's sister, Rita. It was immediately obvious that Ranti and Rita shared a good relationship, but Ranti and Siti, her other sister-in-law, did not. Ranti had prepared an order the day before, only to find that Siti had already sold it to someone else. When the customer, Pact arrived to collect his reserved order, Ranti was stunned to find it missing. Siti, instead of admitting the truth, immediately began blaming and accusing Ranti. Rita, ever the peacekeeper, stepped in, quickly preparing 2 new chickens for Pact. During the exchange, Pact noted that Siti was 7 months pregnant. We learned that Siti didn't want to work in her condition, but she did so only because she was afraid Ranti would call her lazy or speak poorly of her. The argument escalated, highlighting the deep animosity between the two women. Though Ranti generally remained quiet, taking the brunt of Siti's constant verbal attacks, Pact gently reminded Rita that it was her responsibility to try and maintain peace between the two women. At home, the complexity of the family became clearer. Rita, Bowo, and Bayu were the 3 siblings. Ranti was Bowo's wife, and Siti was Bayu's wife. We were introduced to Ranti and Bowo's daughter, Nina, who was getting ready for school. Nina had a profound challenge. She had suffered problems with her legs since birth, receiving no support below the knees, which meant she had to use artificial legs to walk. Through a conversation with her father, Bowo, we learned he worked on a ship at sea and was rarely home. With her mother always working outside, Nina felt incredibly lonely. Bayu, Bowo's younger brother, was the complete opposite of Bowo. He was entirely lazy, spending his days lounging around and his nights gambling on cockfights. When he woke up one morning and found no food ready on the table, he complained to Bowo, asking why Ranti hadn't cooked. Ranti carried the weight of the entire household, managing her business while trying to satisfy her mother-in-law's extreme expectations. Ranti returned home that day smiling, but the smile quickly vanished. Her mother-in-law immediately scolded her for not preparing food. Siti, being pregnant, was always excused from these duties, a fact she frequently used as an excuse. Ranti explained that since they had left before dawn, they couldn't cook, so she bought food instead. The mother-in-law refused to eat outside food. Rita tried to intervene, offering to cook for her mother starting the next day, but the mother-in-law remained unsatisfied. Ranti retreated to the kitchen, but the scolding continued relentlessly. Ranti endured this every day. Her only supporters in the house were Rita and her husband, Bowo. However, even Bowo often failed to stand up for her. That day, Rita was taking Nina to school, which prompted yet another tirade from the mother-in-law, who insisted it was Ranti's duty and that Ranti must collect Nina after class. Ranti, in addition to the chicken sales, also ran a boiled chicken supply business. She was supposed to see Bowo off to the ship and then use the pickup truck to deliver these chickens. Her mother-in-law simply refused to hear any of it, asserting that Ranti must fulfill all her duties as a wife and mother, regardless of how busy she was. To make matters worse, Bowo didn't even give Ranti all his hard-earned money. He first had to give money to his mother, then to Bayu. This month, Bayu, using Siti's pregnancy as an excuse, took nearly half of Bowo's earnings. Bowo told Ranti that they would have to rely on her savings to get through the month, as managing on the remaining half would be incredibly difficult. Ranti accepted this, saying she didn't mind spending her savings, but she confessed her frustration. No matter what she did, she could never please her mother-in-law, and now Siti was also constantly speaking ill of her. Bowo acknowledged Ranti's hardship, but said they couldn't afford to move out. Where would they live if they left? Plus, he reasoned, since he was away at sea so often, he felt safer, knowing that Ranti and Nina had people around to look after them. Ranti clarified that she didn't want to leave. She only wanted Bowo's support. It hurt her deeply that when someone treated her unfairly, Bowo never stood up for her. Bowo consoled her and promised that he would stop being silent. Ranti then drove Bowo to the ship. She sat there, watching until his ship was far out into the ocean. She then left to deliver the boiled chickens. On her way back, she saw Bayu gambling again, using the money he had deceitfully taken from Bowo under the guise of Siti's needs. Ranti said nothing and returned home. As soon as she entered the house, she found her mother-in-law sitting and weeping. When Ranti asked why, her mother-in-law replied that she was a failure as a mother. The next scene was chaos. Ranti was rushing through the hospital, bumping into an elderly woman who was selling food. Ranti was running toward the operating theater, where she learned that Nina had been in an accident. Rita, who was supposed to pick up Nina, had been late. Rita was beside herself, apologizing profusely to Ranti. The doctor informed Ranti that Nina's condition was critical, and they were fighting hard to save her life. Ranti collapsed, completely devastated. She sat there through the night. The elderly woman she had bumped into approached her. She offered Ranti some food, which Ranti initially refused. The old woman assured Ranti that Nina would recover, simply urging Ranti to have faith. Ranti asked how the woman knew her daughter was sick. The woman replied that she understood a mother's heart. Ranti countered, heartbroken, that the doctors had given Nina only a very slim chance of survival. The old woman leaned in close and told Ranti that help doesn't always come only from doctors. She had another way. If Ranti could muster the faith, she should contact her. The woman handed Ranti a piece of paper and vanished. Rita arrived immediately afterward, asking Ranti what the old woman had said, but Ranti kept silent. The next morning, the household was furious, especially Siti, who was upset that she had to manage everything single-handedly. They believed that if Ranti had just listened to her mother-in-law, Nina would never have been hurt. They frantically tried to contact Bowo, but since he was far out at sea, there was no network signal. At the hospital, the devastating news arrived. Nina required immediate brain surgery. Without it, she would not survive. Ranti had very little money, even after selling her pickup truck. The amount still wasn't enough. That night, the family gathered to discuss the financial crisis. The mother-in-law had no money. Rita suggested selling the house, the only way to raise the funds. Bayu exploded in rage. He flatly refused to sell their father's inheritance. Where would they live? Siti was pregnant. Their mother needed regular checkups, and Siti's delivery would also be expensive. Everyone except Ranti and Rita wanted to wait until Bowo returned, but Ranti knew her daughter didn't have that much time. The doctor insisted the surgery had to happen as soon as possible. Hearing this, Siti cruelly pointed out that even with the surgery, Nina only had a 10% chance of survival, implying that spending the money was pointless. As a mother, Ranti couldn't bear to hear such cold calculation. Ranti was broken. Contact with Bowo was impossible. Rita, though trying to support her, was also helpless. Rita apologized for being unable to help and left. Ranti was left weeping alone, when suddenly the memory of the old woman flooded back. Ranti looked at the piece of paper. It contained a map. Driven by overwhelming fear and desperation, she left the house that night to follow the map and find the old woman. Siti noticed Ranti leaving. The old woman Ranti found was the same woman seen performing the dark ritual at the beginning of the story. That night was Tuesday, the perfect day for the ritual. Ranti at this point was ready to do anything to save her daughter. The old woman promised Ranti that the moment the ritual was complete, Nina would be cured. And so the terrifying rite scene earlier unfolded. Ranti was married to Iblis himself. Ranti accepted the conditions. Immediately after her acceptance, the devil physically manifested and united with Ranti. When the ritual was done, the old woman approached Ranti. She gave Ranti a plate containing items that she instructed Ranti to bury around the house. The old woman commanded that this offering must be performed every week if Ranti wanted to keep Nina alive. Furthermore, Ranti had to sacrifice one chicken every night, starting that very evening. The next morning, Bayu woke up to find his prized fighting rooster, Rocky, missing from its cage. He was deeply troubled. Bayu and Siti were discussing this when their mother called them, saying they should go visit Nina as they hadn't yet been to the hospital. Bayu kept making excuses about his cockfighting, and Siti was reluctant to go. Just then, Ranti drove up to the house. Siti opened the door, and an astonishing miracle unfolded. Nina, who had needed expensive, high-risk surgery the night before, was completely cured. Even more impossibly, her leg, which had been crippled since birth, was now perfectly normal. Nina, excited, ran to show her grandmother, who was overjoyed to see her granddaughter healthy. Siti, however, was immediately suspicious. She asked how Nina's leg had healed. Nina simply replied that her mother called it a miracle. Although everyone else was thrilled, Siti was not. She went to Bayu, declaring that she didn't believe in miracles. She suspected Ranti had performed black magic. Siti was absolutely right, but Bayu dismissed her concerns. He was simply happy that the talk of selling the house was now over. Ranti overheard their conversation. That night, Rita came to Ranti's door, asking her to come out and eat. When Ranti didn't answer after several calls, Rita entered, finding the room completely dark. Suddenly, Ranti placed a hand on Rita's shoulder. Rita asked her again to come out, but as soon as Rita left the room, Ranti locked the door again. She sat down in front of a mirror. It was clear Ranti was no longer herself. The devil was slowly possessing her. The next day, while working, Siti noticed Ranti systematically closing all the windows and doors in the house. Finding this extremely abnormal, Siti went inside and started opening them, all the while scolding Ranti. Strangely, Ranti ignored her completely, sitting and laughing while watching a TV that wasn't actually turned on, or at least nothing was playing. Siti demanded to know where their mother-in-law was, but Ranti gave no reply, further infuriating Siti. Just then, the front door was knocked. Siti went to open it. She pulled the curtains aside and froze in shock. Standing on the doorstep were Ranti and Nina. If Ranti was outside, who had been sitting inside? The Ranti at the door walked past Siti and entered the house, giving Siti a chilling, horrifying smile that made Siti's blood run cold. Siti quickly checked the TV room. Drawn by the sound of the television, no one was there, but the TV was playing by itself. Siti could not make sense of any of it. That night, Siti tried to discuss her fears with Rita, but Rita didn't believe her. Rita knew how much Siti disliked Ranti and figured Siti was just trying to undermine her. Siti was further unsettled that Ranti was taking a shower late at night. Later, Nina was sleeping next to her mother. When Nina rolled over, we saw a demonic hand gently stroking Nina's head and holding her tightly. Bayu returned late that night. As usual, Siti was asleep and Bayu woke her up, asking her to cook him noodles. Siti went to the kitchen and put water on the stove. She looked at the window and saw countless frogs clinging to the glass. One frog leaped from the window directly into her cooking pot. Siti killed the frog with a fork and shut the window. At that moment, the kitchen door swung open by itself. She heard sounds coming from the bathroom. Siti took her phone and crept toward the sound. From inside, Ranti could be heard telling someone to stop. Siti slid her phone beneath the bathroom door and filmed Ranti's strange and unsettling bath. Since Siti always wanted to slander Ranti, she was overjoyed with the footage. She immediately sat down and uploaded the video to the internet. As she was doing this, Ranti emerged, soaking wet. She walked past Siti without a word. The video looked like Ranti had been bathing with someone else. Yet, there was no one inside the bathroom when the video was filmed. Siti was more confused than ever. The next day, the video had gone viral across the entire market. Everyone was gossiping about it. Rita, delivering boiled chicken to Pact Haji, noticed the strange behavior of the townsfolk and learned about the video. Ranti found out, too. In a blind rage, Ranti went straight to Siti. She grabbed a sharp butcher knife used for cutting meat. She seized Siti, choking her. Before Ranti could even speak, Siti admitted everything. She had filmed the video and spread it. Siti then taunted Ranti, asking if she dared to kill her in front of so many witnesses. Siti claimed Ranti was hiding something and demanded she confess, calling Ranti crazy. Ranti leaned close to Siti's ear and hissed that Siti was ungrateful and had crossed a dangerous line. Siti dared Ranti to strike, and Ranti raised the knife to deliver a blow. Just as she was about to strike, Rita rushed forward and stopped her. Siti was terrified and weeping. Ranti looked around the environment, stunned. She realized she had been temporarily possessed by the devil and was not fully aware of her own actions. Understanding the severity of the situation, Ranti fled. Pause right here. If this escalating horror is giving you chills, you have to hit that like button and tell us in the comments if you think Ranti can ever truly break free from this demonic marriage. This is only going to get worse. That night, Bayu came home late again and woke Siti up, demanding noodles. Siti went to the kitchen and was stunned to find noodles already cooking on the stove. She turned around and gasped. Ranti was standing there looking incredibly strange. Ranti walked toward the pot and plunged her hand into the boiling water. She pulled out a boiled frog from the noodles. Ranti then chewed and devoured the cooked frog viciously. Right in front of Siti, Siti was sickened. Ranti then told Siti that her noodles were ready, making strange, disturbing gestures before walking away. Siti threw the foul noodles out and cooked a fresh batch. She took them to the room and started calling Bayu, wanting to tell him everything. But when she pulled back the blanket, she was horrified. It wasn't her husband Bayu, but Ranti lying in the bed. Ranti instantly sat up and grabbed Siti by the neck. While one hand strangled Siti, the other hand plunged into Siti's pregnant stomach. Siti died right there. Ranti then violently pulled out Siti's 7-month-old fetus. In a sickening display of savage brutality, Ranti consumed the baby. The next morning, Rita's alarm woke her. She called Ranti to go to the market, but there was no sound from Ranti's room. Just then, Bayu returned home. This confirmed that the person who had come home late the night before was not the real Bayu, but the devil mimicking him. Seeing Bayu, Rita asked him to wake up Siti. Bayu went into the room where a sheet was draped over a bolster pillow. Thinking it was Siti, he called out to her. When he didn't see her, he went back to sleep. Rita grew worried about Siti. The following morning, after Ranti prepared Nina for school, the mother-in-law asked Bayu where Siti was. Had she gone to her father's house? Bayu suggested Siti might have left in anger. He blamed Ranti, saying that Ranti's fight with Siti at the market after the video was uploaded must have driven her away. The mother-in-law angrily confronted Ranti about fighting Siti in public. Rita immediately defended Ranti, stating that Siti was completely at fault. Rita suggested that after dropping Nina off, she and Ranti should go to the market and ask around if anyone had seen Siti, but the mother-in-law strictly forbade it. She emphatically refused to let the neighbors know Siti was missing, fearing it would bring shame and ruin their family's reputation. Infuriated by his mother's prioritizing reputation over his missing wife, Bayu stormed out. Ranti and Rita then left with Nina. The mother-in-law was left alone. She called Siti's phone. Siti answered, but on the other end, the mother-in-law heard screaming and crying, leaving her frantic. Suddenly, her wheelchair started moving backward by itself. Behind her, we saw the terrifying, ghostly form of Siti. Before an accident could happen, the mother-in-law managed to stop the chair. When she looked back, no one was there. That night, Nina was playing with a small toy chicken, which rolled into the bathroom. Nina followed it. Outside, Rita was working when she suddenly heard a sound of crying. She noticed fresh dirt overturned near the chicken coops. The crying was coming from that newly dug hole. She couldn't see anything with the naked eye, but when she turned on her phone camera, it detected a human figure. The figure began slowly moving toward her. The crying sound was also getting closer. Just as the figure was almost upon her, Rita heard Nina scream and ran back inside. We saw that the spectral figure was Siti's ghost, invisible to Rita's eye moments before. Meanwhile, in the bathroom, Nina had just entered when Ranti suddenly emerged from the water. Ranti, looking horrific, asked Nina if she wanted to bathe with her. This was why Nina had screamed in terror. When Rita rushed in, Nina didn't say what happened, only that she wanted to sleep with Rita that night. Rita agreed and took her away. The next morning, Ranti performed the ritual as commanded. She grabbed a chicken and brutally severed its head. She left the head as an offering for Iblis. Ranti then went to dispose of the body in the hole near the coop. As she did, she saw her own clothing inside. When she pulled the clothes up, Siti's hand emerged. Ranti was absolutely shocked. Since the devil had possessed her body during the murder, Ranti had no conscious memory of killing Siti, yet she understood that the ritual was the cause of all this. She rushed back to confront the old woman. The old woman coldly told Ranti that she was entirely to blame. Ranti was now bound to the devil. She was Iblis's wife, and wherever Ranti went, the devil went. The old woman explained that just as any husband protects his wife, Iblis's protection and retaliation against anyone who wronged Ranti would be far more terrifying. Ranti wept, begging that no one else in her family die because of her. The old woman was stern. Ranti had willingly entered a pact, and she would remain Iblis's wife until her death. Ranti was helpless. On the drive back, Ranti felt immense regret. She remembered that the last time she was in this car, she had been complaining to Bowo about his lack of support. Bowo had promised to stand by her. Ranti realized this was certainly not the support she had wanted. It was painfully clear that through that desperate ritual, she had destroyed her marriage, her family, and her entire life. There was no turning back. Meanwhile, Bayu was gambling on cockfights again. Suddenly, he thought he saw Siti in the crowd and moved toward her, searching. The market was closed. Siti's spirit was close by, attempting to seek help, but Bayu couldn't see her. As Bayu searched, Siti's horrific, invisible ghost stalked right next to him. A man approached Bayu, startling him. The man informed Bayu that his rooster had died. The man had gone behind the house to bury the dead bird. While there, he heard the crying coming from the hole. When he investigated, he found Siti's hand. Seeing the bracelet and the clothes, he was horrified. Ranti arrived home and was heading to her room when she heard Bayu shouting at Nina, demanding to know where her mother was. Ranti tried to intervene, but Bayu leaped on her, accusing her of murdering Siti. He had retrieved Siti's body, and the gruesome sight terrified even Ranti. Bayu saw Ranti's clothes near the body, confirming her guilt. Bayu tried to strike Ranti, but Rita intervened, pulling Ranti away. Bayu was devastated by Siti's death. His mother approached him and instructed him to immediately take Siti's body and bury her behind the house. Bayu was aghast. His mother explained that she couldn't allow anyone outside the family to know this dark truth. They had to protect their reputation. Bayu found his mother's obsession with public opinion unbearable, but he reluctantly obeyed. Nina went to Ranti and fearfully asked if she had really killed her Aunt Siti. Ranti tried to explain, but Nina was terrified of her and ran away. Rita followed Nina to console her. Bayu finished burying Siti. We then saw the possessed Ranti moving in a strange, erratic way, heading toward the chicken farm. Bayu followed her. When he arrived, Ranti was gone. Suddenly, the invisible devil attacked him. Iblis drove a piece of wood into Bayu's eye. Ranti then appeared, laughing maniacally as she left. Bayu struggled, pulling the wood from his eye, and stumbled out, screaming Ranti's name. Iblis then seized him and threw him violently. The devil grabbed Bayu by the throat, slamming him around. We could clearly see the demonic hand clutching Bayu's throat. Iblis tossed Bayu aside, and a chicken immediately flew onto him, pecking out his other eye. Now completely blind, Bayu staggered out of the coop area, where a piece of corrugated tin fell on him, killing him instantly. I can't even begin to describe the sheer brutality Bayu faced. If you want us to keep covering the most intense horror stories, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. We are heading towards the climax, but there's still so much devastation to come. Rita heard the sound and rushed over. Ranti had regained consciousness and she was horrified to see Bayu's mangled corpse. Rita approached Ranti, demanding to know what had happened to her brother. Ranti, unable to answer, went inside. Rita followed, and Ranti's mother-in-law stood by the door. Inside, Ranti was violently hitting her own head. She told Rita that Rita was the only person who had ever stood by her side and that she loved her deeply. Ranti pleaded with Rita not to strike her or ask any questions. She did not want Rita to end up like the others. Rita understood and calmed herself. Nina approached and Ranti hugged her. Ranti's mother-in-law sat down, weeping helplessly. The next day, Bayu was buried next to Siti. Rita approached her mother, who was still insisting that Rita go to the market and work as normal, lest people become suspicious. Rita was amazed that her mother was still preoccupied with reputation. Rita wanted to seek help from Pahaji, but her mother refused, believing Bowo would return the day after next and then they could make decisions. Rita found this completely unacceptable. Just then, Nina heard her mother screaming from her room and went to check. Nina was distressed to see Ranti suffering and bleeding. Her grandmother called out to Nina, forbidding her from going near Ranti's room. Nina looked back at Ranti and saw her mother transforming into a horrifying form again. That very night, Rita brought Pak Haji to the house. Pak Haji stood outside Ranti's room, asking for permission to enter, which Ranti granted. He asked Rita to bring him a glass of water. He approached Ranti and told her he had come for his special boiled chicken. He said Rita told him Ranti was sick and asked if he could recite a prayer for her. Ranti agreed. As soon as he began praying, Ranti got up and sat in front of the mirror. Haji stood next to her and said he had prayed for her, advising Ranti to pray regularly to protect herself. Ranti replied creepily that she would pray. She added that Haji should also pray diligently and protect himself. Haji took the glass of water from Rita and began to recite prayers over it. Before he could blow the prayer into the water, Ranti stared violently at the glass and smiled. Instantly, the glass shattered. Haji gave up. As he left, he only told Rita to pray constantly, reminding her that there is no problem in the world that cannot be solved through prayer. Rita agreed. Suddenly, Ranti whispered in Rita's ear, telling her to stay out of this business. When Rita looked, no one was there. The devil inside Ranti was now preparing the red dress and the bed, the items Ranti wore during the demonic marriage. Just then, Bowo returned home. He first visited the graves of Bayu and Siti. Upon entering the house, he was told everything that had happened, but he refused to believe it. He thought they were unfairly blaming Ranti. Nina told her father that her mother had changed. She wasn't the same woman. This change began the moment Nina was cured. Nina wondered if she was to blame for everything. Bowo comforted her and went to Ranti's room, calling her name. Ranti didn't open the door. Instead, she was inside marking her calendar. She briefly opened the door, telling Bowo he couldn't come in, and slammed it shut. Bowo was confused. His mother approached, lamenting that their family was completely ruined. Bowo replied that he wasn't thinking about the family. He was only thinking about Ranti. That night, Bowo was sleeping in the drawing room. He heard Ranti's laughter coming from her room and went to the door. The laughter stopped the moment he knocked. He peered through a tiny gap in the door. He saw Ranti acting like a maniac. The devil was visible, lifting Ranti into the air and violently throwing her onto the bed. Ranti looked toward Bowo and laughed. Then the devil suddenly appeared right in front of the peephole. Bowo screamed in shock. Rita and Nina were nearby and saw the devil. After this horrifying revelation, Ranti was tied up in their bathroom. The next morning, the electricity was out across the entire house. Nina reported this to her grandmother. The grandmother gave Nina a plate of food and told her to take it to her mother. The small Nina, terrified, approached the bathroom. When the light came in, Ranti was clearly in agony. Her face was transforming. She was slowly taking on the appearance of the devil. Nina gave her the food and tried to leave. The devil in Ranti tried to manipulate Nina, begging her to unlock the chains. Nina wept, asking why her mother wasn't the person she used to be, insisting she loved her old mother. When the devil realized manipulation wasn't working, it lunged at Nina. Since Ranti was chained, the devil couldn't reach her. Ranti's mother-in-law arrived. Nina ran to her, and the grandmother told Nina to lock the bathroom door, which Nina did. Meanwhile, Bowo and Rita had gone to the hospital. Rita remembered seeing the mysterious food-selling old woman there. They desperately searched the hospital for her, but she was nowhere to be found. Back at the house, night fell and the power was still out. Nina was crying, thinking about her mother in the dark. She grabbed a candle and went to the bathroom. She placed the candle inside and asked Ranti why she hadn't eaten all day. Ranti replied that she ate rice only with pickles. Nina left to find pickles. Ranti then whispered, chillingly, that only 4 chickens were left and she would finish them all that night. At the same time, Ranti's mother-in-law called Bowo, urging him to return home immediately. We then saw Ranti standing behind her. Ranti had used the candle to melt the lock and free herself. When Nina returned to the bathroom with the pickles, her mother was gone. She heard her grandmother scream. Nina ran to her grandmother and saw Ranti standing over her, having stabbed her grandmother in the throat with a knife. Nina locked the door and fled. Moments later, Rita and Bowo arrived home. Rita collapsed, crying over her mother's body. Bowo held his mother and told Rita to find Nina. As Rita rushed out to search, she was immediately confronted by Ranti, who was now fully possessed by the devil. Ranti attacked Rita. To defend herself, Rita grabbed a plate and smashed it over Ranti's head. A shard of the plate stuck in Ranti's scalp. Ranti ferociously pulled it out and flew into a rage, grabbing Rita by the neck and slamming her around. Rita was severely beaten, but she managed to grab a pair of scissors from a bag and plunged it into Ranti's chest. The devil inside Ranti was enraged. It slapped Rita, knocking her unconscious. The demon then pulled the scissors out of Ranti's chest. Bowo's voice called out, searching for Nina. The demon, wielding the bloody scissors, appeared behind Bowo, placing the blade against his throat. Bowo was terrified. He looked at Ranti, desperately trying to bring her back to her senses, but Ranti was completely possessed. The devil in Ranti then killed Bowo, stabbing the scissors into his chest. Bowo pleaded with Ranti to return to him, calling her his wife. The devil replied, "She is no longer your wife. She is only Iblis's wife." For a fleeting moment, Ranti seemed to return, but it was another trick of the devil. The demon grabbed Bowo's neck and violently snapped it, killing him instantly. Hidden above, Nina witnessed the entire tragedy and cried out. Ranti immediately knew where she was and brought her down, but Rita, having regained consciousness, arrived and struck Ranti on the head. It had no effect. The devil grabbed Rita by the throat as Nina, holding the bloody scissors, turned the blade toward her own leg. She reasoned that her leg and her health were the reasons her mother was possessed. She tearfully screamed, asking Ranti if she killed herself or cut off her own leg, would her mother come back? She screamed her mother's name, a sound that reached Ranti, who was spiritually trapped in the devil's world. Ranti saw a flash of light, Nina standing there crying out to her. She moved toward the light. Suddenly, Ranti's consciousness snapped back into her body. She immediately pleaded with Rita to take Nina and leave the house. Rita refused to leave Ranti alone. Ranti insisted, begging them to go far away and start a new life. Rita finally consented. Right in front of them, Ranti doused herself in kerosene and set herself on fire. She sacrificed herself to stop the devil within her. Rita grabbed Nina, jumped into the pickup truck, and drove away. Pak Haji saw them leaving. The entire house burned down, consuming Ranti. The next morning, Rita and Nina sought refuge in a house near the train tracks. Nina woke up and immediately noticed that her leg felt weak. She had no strength below the knee. Just like before she was cured, the devil had taken back its gift. Suddenly, a terrifying noise erupted from the closet. They were both scared. Rita bravely opened the closet door. Inside, they found the red dress Ranti had worn when she married Iblis. As this realization dawned on them, they looked outside. Standing across the train tracks was the ritualistic old woman, the one whose black magic had orchestrated this entire tragedy. As a train sped past, she vanished. And with that, the story concludes. But the chilling implication remains. Perhaps the old woman has set her sights on Rita now. Could Rita be Iblis's next wife? Let us know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this terrifying investigation. If you made it this far, please share this chilling story with a friend who loves horror